Alrighty. Hi, y'all. Welcome back to Fuck Calories. Dr. Sarah, tell me what's up with your life. We haven't talked in, I don't know, about a week, but what's going on? What's the update?
Girl, I am in the midst of a very stressful series of days.
Oh,
Today's my first day off in 9 days, and it'll going forward, it will be my last day off in the next 12 days. So I am a little bit on the high stress
that is so much
situation.
work. Okay, so
It's
tell
so much
me,
work.
break it down for us. Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Oh, so it was kind of an accident that I signed up for as many shifts that I did. So as you know, I work in abortion care. I also work on labor and delivery, and I also have an obesity medicine little side practice. Um, and with all those jobs, um, the obviously the hardest amongst those is when I do shifts on labor and delivery. So as some people may know, hospitals are open 24 hours a day. They are staffed with physicians 24 hours a day, and babies are born at all hours. You can schedule your abortion to be when is convenient for your circadian rhythm, but you cannot schedule when a baby is going to be born.
Right.
So I do shifts. Some of them are 12-hour shifts and some of them are 24-hour shifts. And I think that this is just a commentary on physician life period. I think when the 24-hour shift thing, at least in obstetrics and gynecology, started, it was in a throwback to the olden days when people like, what's his name, who was Bill? I don't even want to bring up Bill Cosby, but when in the Cosby Show, his character, is it Dr. Huxtable? Anyway, it was a throwback to the, I don't know why I'm getting off on that tangent, but it's a little bit poor form to talk about that these days. But anyway, the solo practitioner who had a population of patients, and they would be on call all the time to deliver their babies. But you maybe would have 10 patients a month that had a due date that month. And, in theory, say let me back up. Most babies are born at night for certain circadian rhythm reasons and evolutionary reasons. Not all, but most. And so what that means is that maybe 10 nights out of the month, that was like a classic or a typical patient volume, is that 10 nights or 10 patients would have a due date within a particular month. That's how you would arrange your schedule. And so in theory, 10 nights out of that month, you would be up all night, and the other 20, you would get to sleep. And so the way, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the way that medicine has evolved for OBGYN is that now we kind of consolidate our deliveries into, like, basically you have different people who do different things. And just like many fields, we have kind of become specializations. So you have people that specialize in doing prenatal care in the clinic, and then you have people that specialize in delivering babies on labor and delivery in the hospital. And so I am at the latter. And so what that means is that I have shifts sometimes at certain hospitals, because I work at two different hospitals. At one of my hospitals, there are 12-hour shifts, and one of my hospitals, there are 24-hour shifts. And at my hospital that we do 24-hour shifts, when we started, we had about half the patient population or half the patient volume that we currently have. And so we could reliably at some point during that 24-hour shifts get a nap. We had a call room that we could go nap in. And honestly, we often got that opportunity. However, as I feel like a lot of things that we are facing in society, private equity has taken over the hospital system, and we are now employees, and they have brought in more patients to deliver with the same number of physicians. And long story short, we now work 24-hour shifts with no break. I mean, there are many times where it has been 15, 18 hours since I have gotten to empty my bladder.
Wow.
And it's insane. It is very unhealthy, and I do not recommend it. I love my job,
Mhm.
but I almost unanimously recommend against people going into OBGYN, even though I feel so passionate about it, because of these strains. And unfortunately, obviously, I also participate in abortion care, and I really, really enjoy it. And those are my favorite shifts. But unfortunately, with the way that our country is going, our audience may not know this yet, but I used to fly back and forth and provide abortion care in Texas and in Arkansas. Obviously, that is now illegal. And so there's just, even though there's more demand, there is less opportunity for for physicians to do abortion care. And so I have to, if I'm going to make a living and I'm going to be solvent, yes, abortion care is a huge part of my identity, but it has become a smaller, even though I'm in California, a smaller portion of my job, and I have to be able to make a living. And so I still do regular OBGYN work, meaning I deliver babies. And so anyway, I'm rambling now, but yeah, so my next upcoming week is I'm not looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and that sounds very stressful. And especially if you're going so many hours without even going to the restroom, I imagine you're not getting a lot of sleep either.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel like that plays into your life, right? The
Oh God.
stress and the sleep and being not only being a physician and trying to work through it, but also being a human.
God, that's such a hard question. I mean, it's a very simple question.
Yeah.
It has played into so many aspects of my life. In fact, I was talking to a friend about this. I think that different people genetically are better at different things and better at coping.
Mhm.
I feel very fortunate that my genetics, and this is something that I have always been this way. I have family members that are this way. My, like I have friends that when they are sleep deprived, you can tell like they don't think as well. They don't, like you're talking to them and they may not make sense.
Mhm.
I have been very fortunate that I have enough adrenaline or enough cortisol that when I am sleep deprived, my body makes up for it in other ways. And I think there's no free lunch. Everybody makes up for it in some way. And even though I will have not slept in many days, or maybe slept on, suboptimally in many days, my brain stays alert. And this is definitely not true for everybody, but
Mhm.
I do okay from a intellectual thinking, being able to process type situation. But I do not do okay in a mood type thing. I get pretty snappy and grouchy and bossy, as some of my colleagues can tell you. And I'm not as rosy and sweet with my colleagues and with my coworkers and even with my patients. And I think it really disrupts my home life and my choices. And we can actually talk about this in the science minute, as far as like how I'm able to better care for myself in other ways. The bandwidth that I have to cook food at home instead of going
Mhm.
through the drive-through or ordering carry out, the bandwidth that I have to care for myself in other ways, as far as like going to go work out, or I mean just any of those self-care things that I know will make me have a better life. Sometimes when I am so stressed and so exhausted, like it is all I can do to just come home and exist. And I don't have the bandwidth to cook for myself the healthy food that I know that I should eat. I don't have the bandwidth to make myself go get on a treadmill or whatever, or go
Right.
lift weights, or and so I think that it's really important. Oh, and the other thing that is also true is that I have no research to back this up, but it is what I feel, at least for me in my life, that sleep begets sleep. And what
Mm.
I mean by that is that when I am doing these really bad runs of lots of shifts in a row and my sleep is really disrupted, even when I then have days off, my sleep is still very disrupted. And it is hard for me to sleep 6 hours consecutively. I mean, this even happened just a few nights ago. So the past 9 days, I have had similar nights like this, like the one I'm about to go through. And I had done a 24-hour shift on, this was a Monday. So I did a 24-hour shift on Monday. So Tuesday morning, I come home and I should be like exhausted and go to sleep for a few hours, right? And so I took a shower. I did all the things that I usually do to like get myself in the mood to go to sleep. And obviously, I feel tired.
Mhm.
And I have blackout curtains. I have a noise machine. I make my house really, really cold. And then I have a heated blanket on my legs to kind of help like my parasympathetic system kind of relax and help me go to sleep. And I did all the things. I don't have my phone with me. Like I have exceptional sleep hygiene. And I literally laid there for hours and could not fall asleep. And I have no electronics. I have nothing to make my mind stay awake. And I was trying to go to sleep and I couldn't. So then I got up, I did something, I ate something, laid back down, and could not sleep. Laid there for another hour. Got up, did something, ate something, tried to lay back down, and literally the entire day went by, and I never slept.
Mhm.
Then finally at 10 p.m. so now I have been up for like, what is this, like 40 hours at this point? 10 p.m. I finally was able to go to sleep that night. And then the next day I was supposed to do another 24. And at 2:30 in the morning, my brain's like, oh my God, we're awake. And so it had been 4.5 hours and I was totally wide awake, ready to go, felt well rested, even though obviously I have been, like 3 days with 4.5 hours of sleep. And I could not go back to sleep the whole rest of the morning. And so I laid there and laid there and laid there. And finally, at 5:30 when I was supposed to get up and get ready for work, I finally got out of bed, but I lost that 2 hours that I could have continued sleeping. And I did another 24. And so in that period of, so Monday, Tuesday post call, Wednesday, and then Thursday. So from Monday to Thursday, I had that single 4.5 hours of sleep, and that was the only sleep that I had. And it becomes really hard. Like at least for me, like sleep begets sleep. And the more you have a regular schedule and the more you don't do those crazy kind of hours, the better able you are to sleep on a regular basis. And for me, at least, when I have disrupted sleep, even when I have time off, I have even more terribly disrupted sleep. So I think that that's something that's really important that we should talk about, and we should talk about if and when I am going to make changes to improve this, which right now I can't afford to, but yeah, the answer to your question is all of the above. Yeah,
That's a
but
lot.
it is what it's my life right now. So yeah.
Goodness. Well, it makes me feel better about my sleep because sometimes I don't sleep as well. But
Yeah.
I am getting more sleep than you are, so but yeah, sleep is very important to everyone, and it's interesting because we really don't have a lot of answers with sleep, right? Sleep medicine is a really interesting, I think, field,
Feel.
and
Yeah.
a lot of questions still remain as to why do we actually need sleep and what is it actually doing and what do we, you know what I mean? We're spending a third of our lives, or we should, or it is
Yeah.
recommended, right? 8 hours a day of sleep. And a lot of us are definitely not getting that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, we don't have all of the answers, but we know at the end of the day how important it still is because of the side effects that develop when we don't get enough sleep. And we're definitely going to dive into that a little bit more in detail in the science minute, but I think everyone has experienced a lack of sleep and being more irritable and being more hungry maybe, and craving sugar, and being more, probably said already irritable, but less patient. I'm just imagining like what happens when I don't sleep, right? Is it's just not going to be a good day.
Yeah.
And you try and power through with hormones and neurotransmitters, right? With like cortisol and adrenaline, and you're just trying to make it through.
Caffeine.
Right, exactly. Lots of caffeine, lots of
Yeah.
sugar, lots of stuff like that. But we know that when we don't sleep as well, our defenses tend to go down. And so we
Yeah.
become a little bit more susceptible to reaching for that donut. and
Absolutely.
having all of that caffeine, and maybe we add a little bit more sugar to our coffee than we would, or we're not eating maybe as well, and maybe I don't have enough energy to do the run,
Stand in my,
right, that I said I would
yeah.
do, and all of the
Or
things,
stand in my kitchen and cook and prepare the healthy meal that I know that I should.
right?
Instead, I can sit in the front seat of my car and go through a drive-through and someone will hand me a hot, delicious meal, even if it's not like gourmet delicious, it's tasty and it's fine, you
Right,
know?
right, absolutely. Um, because it's again, it's hitting those receptors in our brain that give us pleasure and reward.
Right,
And when
right.
we have lowered our threshold because we are not sleeping as well, we need more of that. And we're
Need more
constantly
dopamine.
pleasure
Yeah,
seeking
yeah,
when we are sleeping less. And
yeah.
so I think sleep is a huge component of overall health, and
Mhm.
especially for those that are trying to have more energy, right? And maybe have less brain fog, or
Yeah.
gosh, am I trying to be healthier? So sleep is healthy component, but also if I sleep well, I'm more able to hit those goals that I've already set for myself, right? As opposed to I'm too tired, right, to cook that healthy meal that I already said I did and I bought all the things, but you
Right.
know, fuck it.
Well, and it's
I'm
so true.
tired.
Like, yeah. And it's so true. Like how many times do we either ourselves or have patients who come in wanting their hormones checked, and maybe they do have a hormone imbalance, but we don't really have a good way to check, you know, if your cortisol level is not diseased high, but is not normal for your body and is not optimal for your body, because it is on overdrive, but it's not high enough to flag, like a system. That doesn't mean that your cortisol is appropriate. Like, let's talk about how much sleep you're getting. Like, is your fatigue and is your inability to lose weight because you're not sleeping enough? And it absolutely happens. And it is something that I think the medical establishment doesn't have like a good answer for, but you and I know that it is absolutely a key player in the ability for you to lose weight if you want to, if you're trying, and to regulate your appetite and your well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because I know I was not able to release my the fat that I had been wanting to until I took care of my adrenals, right? I was in adrenal dysfunction because I was pulling the same shifts that you were, right? Except I was doing ER shifts and a lot of overnights, right, and residency and staying up to do the ICU. But even after we graduate residency, I decided to go into ER on top of my family medicine. And that's just a lot of nights without sleep.
Yeah,
And it took a toll on me. And
yeah,
the stress that my body continued to have days after that shift ended really I started to become more aware, right? And so when I was woken up from a dead sleep with panic because I thought I heard my pager or I
right,
thought I heard my phone call,
right.
means that again, my adrenaline, my cortisol was constantly surging. And we know that when that happens, the last thing your body wants to do is to give up this adipose tissue because, right, that's just not what something that you do when the
Yeah,
body is stressed. So
yeah,
that's definitely adrenal dysfunction is a huge component. And I think a huge component of adrenal dysfunction is sleep and poor sleep and sleep hygiene. And some of that also comes down to the American culture of
yeah.
hustle, right?
Yep.
Of you should constantly be working and everyone needs a side gig and you constantly need to be working more money. Now, part of that is the in stage capitalism that we live in,
Yeah,
right? And needing to
yeah,
pay off these crazy loans that we took
yeah,
out. Everything is
yeah.
becoming more expensive. We know that. But the second part of it is too, is that in order to play in that game, we're encouraging other people to keep pushing themselves, right? And if you're sleeping, you're losing out on something. And so then people start giving up sleep because
Well,
they feel like they should be working more.
exactly. And the whole feeling like you should be working more is so pivotal and so like the epitome of our culture. Like,
Right.
if you are working 80 hours a week, it's like some sort of badge of honor. But if you are sleeping 56 hours a week, nobody gives a shit. That's, that's seen as, like if you are sleeping more than that, like say you're sleeping 10 hours a night, and maybe that's what your body needs to be healthy and for your adrenals to be in optimal balance.
Mhm.
You don't like that's not well respected, like,
Right.
and it's really sad because maybe that is what I need. Maybe if I had a parallel life with all of my same genetics and all of my same tendencies, but I was in a profession, or had a job where I could have 10 hours a night in bed, even if I wasn't necessarily sleeping all of them. But if I had 10 hours every single night that I was in bed, and that didn't flip flop, it didn't change because I wasn't doing shifts overnight every now and then, what would the rest of my life look like? And what would my body size look like? How would my relationship with food change? How would my relationship with activity, like you and I both know that that I love working out and I love exercise, but I don't get to do it as much as I want to. But I really enjoy sports, and I have always really enjoyed feeling strong.
Mhm.
Um, but it has not been as central to my life as I would love for it to have been. There have been periods in my life where it has been, and I have really enjoyed them, and I felt strong when I've done that. And so, what would my life look like if I had different priorities? Like, let's just be honest with what the deal is right now. It's not my priority, and it can't be
Mhm.
um for certain reasons. And many people have the same scenario, either for financial reasons, or whatever they, or if they have a newborn at home, etc., they may not be able to get the optimal sleep that they wish that they would, or they could. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't examine what is optimal, and maybe consider what we can change in our life. And right now, this period that I am in is occurring in January because of some um, shift balancing with my colleagues, and it will get better next month. But it is what it is right now. I'm just trying to survive. So
Yeah. And it's hard. I think a lot of people can agree of this period of survival. And so what does that look to everyone? Everyone's a little different, but if we can survive a little bit better with more sleep, and can we make that a priority? And do you have room in our daily lives to prioritize sleep a little bit more? I think it could make a huge difference. And so let us know, I guess, do you have sleeping issues? And do you think that's playing into maybe your health outcomes or your health aspects? And it's not necessarily just the total amount of sleep, but the quality of sleep. And are you
yeah.
waking up feeling refreshed? Are you having periods of fatigue? Or do you wake up feeling exhausted even though you slept technically for 8 hours, right? So all of these play into sleep in general. And we're going to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty in the science corner that's coming up in a few days. So look out for that. But we'll see you guys next time, okay? Get some sleep and tell us how it
Thank you.
goes.
Well,